So hello everyone, welcome to misec Jackson, your local security community hangout slash presentation slash share information. Yeah, usually we have some announcements, any type of agendas that people may have or events coming up. I don't know any of it at the top of my head. Does anyone else have any CTFs that are coming up? Challenges? I do know that if you are looking for a room for DEF CON, you can talk to Jed over there. It sounds like B-Sides has a large block of rooms still open, so if you're going to DEF CON this year, you can get some pretty cheap rooms at like $77 or something a night, which is pretty awesome for the Vegas area. How many people are going to DEF CON? Anybody? Okay, we got a couple. Cool. I'll see you guys out there. Yeah, anyone have interesting stories or any other announcements? Anybody? Anything? Echo? Crickets? All right. Well, tonight we'll be doing a couple of lightning talks. Our first presenter is Sam, so we can just have him kick it off.
All right, good evening, everybody. So I'm going to be talking to you about Wireshark. I just got back from SharkFest a couple of weeks ago. I know it's not one of the more well-known tech conferences out there, not as big in the information security community as some of the local ones like GurCon, DerbyCon, or maybe the national ones like DEF CON and SHMOO. So I want to talk to you a bit about what I saw there, some of the training I had, and then we'll dive into things I didn't know about Wireshark before going there. So I'll let you read the nightly joke and see the cat in a shark hat because that was too good to pass up. I think most of you know who I am or are trying to forget, so we'll just move on from this. Most of the things I learned came directly from Laura Chappell. She does the actual training course I took in addition to the conference itself. Highly recommended if you're in the field and you want to know more about networking in general and how to do network forensics or do network support. Doesn't have to be a strictly security venture. Security's intertwined, of course, but this wasn't a security first conference, so there are a lot of other things to learn as well.
Does she have a reference book?
She has multiple Wireshark books. I'll tweet some links out afterwards. I forgot to include those in the slide.
Okay.
Ask.wireshark.org is also a great place to go if you ever have a question about this stuff. We learned at the conference their goal is not to be Stack Overflow, where you get insulted every time you ask a question, pretty much. They want to be nice and tell everybody, this is what you're missing, and we'll help you solve your problem. Should be moving to a new platform soon, too, so it'll look really nice. So Laura Chappell's class was troubleshooting with Wireshark. It's 3 days. It happens, well, at least in my case, it happened right before SharkFest. I think that's the normal modus operandi for them. It starts out with a lot of interface customization. That's what I'll be sharing primarily with you tonight when we go to the demo portion, so I won't talk much about that here. Since it's troubleshooting focused, a lot of the things you learn about relate to TCP. There's very little UDP-based troubleshooting that most people do in networks, unless you're doing voice traffic, but you don't generally go down to the packet level there. She also talks about strategy for taking traces and how to ensure that you're getting the best results. Depending on what platform or where in the network you're capturing traffic, you may not get the answers you're looking for, or you may overwhelm the device you're trying to capture on and get a lot of unfinished conversations. And as a result, it won't do you much good. And there's even more stuff. If you go to wiresharkbook.org or Chappell U, if you Google that, you can find a lot of her information. Again, highly recommended. SharkFest itself is kind of like SANS, if you're familiar with that. It's a very seminar-styled conference. It's not like most B-Sides or local security cons where you have a lot of people just get up and do PowerPoints like I am. It's much more classroom oriented, and most people have their laptops out and they're going through a trace file along with the instructor. They're also fairly long. They're either an hour and a half or 3 hours with buffer time, and of course you get a break if it's a 3-hour long one. They host SharkFest usually more than once a year. Traditionally, it's been at the Computer History Museum in California. This year, they decided to have it at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, so it was a little closer to us. And then they tend to have one outside the U.S. as well. I think they're going to somewhere in Central America. I forgot. One thing I did learn about a lot of the presenters and the staff there is they don't use Twitter as much as we do in InfoSec. We need to fix that, but that's not really the focus here. So right before we dive into the demo, since I can't really show it, when you install Wireshark in Windows, it doesn't actually have the ability to capture packets by itself. It relies on a third-party tool to do that. Traditionally, it's been WinPCAP. Now, in a newer version of Wireshark, when they release the 2.4 branch, which I believe is coming in early autumn, it's being beta tested right now. It will include NPCAP from the Nmap project, so our favorite network scanner that you can test out if you download Kali, is also starting up their own capture tool that they'll be using in Nmap, and they've released it for other purposes. So Wireshark is going to be bundling that in Windows soon. It'll improve a number of things. It'll have a newer, and I don't know what this is. I just read the acronym. It'll support the new NDIS wrapper framework, and it will have the ability to capture VLAN tags when you're doing a trace. All right, so let's move right into Wireshark. Where's my mouse? So this is what Wireshark looks like when you first open it up. Lots of columns. We have time here. We'll talk more about that later, but this is incrementing from when you took the capture, using your first packet as 0. You get a guess as to what Wireshark thinks the protocol is, the length of the packet, and quite a bit of useful information here in the information column. But if you leave Wireshark like this as it comes out of the box, you're probably going to be spending a lot of time down here opening up these DNS requests, every single one, trying to find the information you're looking for. It's not especially efficient. One of the great things about Wireshark, though, is it's infinitely customizable, especially after version 2.0, where they started writing the GUI in the Qt format instead of the GTK kit. So it's probably not going to show with the camera. There. No. Hold still. So you can create profiles in Wireshark. I created one during the class that I'll change to. Hold on, I'm missing part of my interface here. Thank you. That didn't happen until I started presenting, of course.
That's how presentations go. Do it live.
All right. Now, this one is, I've scaled back most of the changes I made so that I can go through them with you again, and hopefully it'll make a difference for you when you use Wireshark and how quickly you can find the information you're looking for. Profiles are stored. I have the window open for it. No, I don't. If you go under the Help menu and click About Wireshark, there's a lot of useful information in this menu to begin with, so I recommend looking through it. The Folders tab, though, will show you where all of your profiles are stored. And they're designed as such that you can put them on a USB drive or zip them up and email them to yourself or somebody else share your profiles and the designs you have for them so you can get it on from your home laptop to your work laptop, or from something in lab to maybe the machine you use to troubleshoot stuff on the production network, what have you. In Windows, they're stored under the app data directory in your user folder. Classic and Bluetooth are built in. The SharkFest Class 1 is the one I built, of course. You can edit these files by hand, but it's not particularly easy. These are really meant to just be written to by the software. But if you want to live dangerously, feel free to get rid of the top line that says "Do not edit these" and go to town. You can always repair these things. All right, I'm going to look at my cheat sheet. Oh, one more thing in this menu. One of the coolest things I learned about Wireshark was that you can actually associate IP addresses in your PCAPS with where they are generally located in the globe. To do that, you get databases. There are free ones that are updated, I think, monthly from a company called MaxMind. If you do the purchased model, you get, I think, daily updates, but for the most part you won't need that, so the free one should suit at least for learning purposes. You can map those pretty much anywhere in your file system. This is where it showed up for me. You'll want to use the legacy format for the database. I wasn't able to get the new one working, so this is the old-fashioned one that they gave us in class. If I figure out how to make the new database structure work, I'll send out a link for how I did that. But what this will allow you to do, you go to Statistics and Endpoints. Please work, please work. Why don't I have that turned on? Yay. Alright, I'll figure it out later. Sorry. If I had this working and thought to check it ahead of time, you should see an AS number, country, city, Latin longitude for each of these IP addresses. Obviously, certain countries should stand out, especially if you're doing a trace for security purposes.
Like Russia.
Just maybe. The next really great thing you can do to improve the functionality of Wireshark is to add columns. These are about the ones that you start out with, and they're kind of useful, but for example, let's say, I don't know if are there any HTTP packets in here? No, that's a bad example. So trust me on this one. If I were looking at a PCAP that had HTTP or HTTPS traffic in it, and I told Wireshark, I want to just see that protocol. Pretty much anywhere in the interface you can right-click, apply or prepare as a filter, select it. It's not coming up right now because I'm not on a valid field for doing that. It would populate this top bar, and if you hit enter, it will only match those packets that are similar to the one you highlighted. One of the problems, quote unquote, with that is if you're looking at HTTP or something that rides, another protocol that rides on TCP, it will only show you packets that actually have a decoder down here for that protocol, which comes after the TCP handshake. Not in this case, it's UDP traffic, of course. As a result, you won't see things like what are the window sizes that these machines accept. Is selective acknowledgement allowed? what is the TCP initial round trip time.
Is the evil bit set?
Exactly.
That's important.
That's in the IP header though, so it could be ICMP, UDP, TCP, right? Or do I have that wrong?
I think it's in the TCP flags. It's in one of the reserved bits in the TCP flags is the evil bit that you must set if you are transmitting malicious traffic.
Okay, I was
If
wrong.
traffic is not malicious, then you must not set it. There's an RFC. Get out of here.
So the lesson we learned from Daniel is if you have UDP traffic, apparently you can't be evil or not. It's completely amoral.
That's accurate.
Mm-hmm. So, what was I going to do? I'm bad at demos. All right, let me just start adding columns. If you go to Edit and Preferences, columns are under Appearance. Time is a special one. I'll go to that next. These are all the columns that I've built though. So, for example, I have one called Server Name. That is empty because there's no HTTP traffic. But if I'm gonna find one with HTTP traffic so that this is a valid.
Sam, did you say you made this today?
Shh.
It's just you forgot to sacrifice for the traffic.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
gotta
the
make
devil
the,
gods. You gotta.
you have to make the time for that. Yeah, it's very important.
Not that one.
I think one was called Serial.
That was from the Hack the Arch competition, and I'm still not sure what I was supposed to look for in there.
Welcome to PCAPS.
Mm-hmm. Still nothing. Come on. Okay, this should have one, please.
Yay, HTTP.
All right. Oh, that's because I was doing the wrong column the whole time.
I love you, Sam.
Extra round of hugs for you at the end.
Fortunately, you only have to put up with it for like another 3 minutes.
No, take your time.
All right. I think this is what I wanted. Yes. All right. So if I only care about HTTP traffic, then I could go into the protocol decoder down here, and I'm going to look for the HTTP host field. Oh, and just for reference, anytime you see square brackets in a decoder field, this indicates that it's something that's not actually in the packet. Wireshark has inferred something from the traffic, maybe it's surrounding packets, the TCP handshake, or from this one individually, and given you extra information. And you can still filter on that all you want, but if you were looking at the raw hex, you won't actually find it. When I'm highlighting that, it's not there. So here's the host field. If I wanted to create this column, I don't have to in this case. I would right click and go to Apply as a Column. And it'll come up right next to Info by default. And you have the ability to edit these. Let's say I don't like the way the text looks. I want it over there. There's some basic ones. Whenever you right click on any column up here, you can actually uncheck it or recheck it. So you can completely fill up your screen with all the things that you want to look for in a packet. But if you're at a stage in your search where you no longer need to see the HTTP host, I can uncheck that and give myself more room for the other fields that I want to read. So for example, another one I could pull up would be sequence numbers. might be important if I'm trying to troubleshoot why an application can't connect. Maybe it turns out that there's a lot of retransmissions going on and I have to go look in the code to find out why those aren't being handled correctly. And so as you can see, I've played with a lot of different columns. There's time to live, because that's always fun. Maybe you can determine the operating system from that if you're not familiar with what's on the other end. One of the other things that you can use to speed up searches are buttons. Again, we made a lot of buttons. In order to make one of those, just hit the plus button. You can name it whatever you want, and the filter that will apply to a button would equal anything you can put up here.
Oh, nice.
And I'm not going to make one on the fly. What I'll do is I'll show you where in the menu they're stored, and we can look at a couple of examples. And just for reference, this is what would happen if we decided to look for all the hits to a China or Russian domain. We have a few of them. Not suspicious at all.
It's the government.
Yeah. So under Edit and Preferences, right under the columns, these are filter expressions. They don't call them buttons, but that's effectively what they are. So I have one here that will tell me anytime you see traffic destined for the 127/A range. You shouldn't on a network. That belongs on your local host. So if you see it, that could be a problem. More in the troubleshooting arena, the HTTP time field will, sorry, I'm losing it a little bit. This is time between HTTP requests and responses. If it's over 0.5 seconds in this case, I've decided that I want to be able to filter out all of those because that's probably going to be a problem. Maybe the web server filled up its TCP window and it can't send me anything. Maybe the other guy rebooted it and there's a reason that my requests are taking forever. This will let me find out if that is actually taking place in this capture. I can filter on request methods. I believe Laura said she wrote a script that wrote 1 million buttons just to see if she could break the interface. It wasn't functional at all, and I think it still worked. You just couldn't see anything.
The wall of buttons.
Mm-hmm. So technically, you can fuzz the Wireshark interface with all of these supported customizations, and it deals with it rather well. One or two other things I wanted to show you. Ah, yeah. Let me unmaximize this just in case it's getting cut off. Inside this PCAP, which was for the packet challenge at SharkFest, you'll see this red dot in the lower left-hand corner because the Wireshark expert, which is basically a bunch of if-then statements that classify packets as bad or troublesome, or maybe you just need to be alerted to this. Well, it found some of its worst nightmares in here. So if we click on it, we'll get red for error, yellow for warning. The light blue stuff means note. This is just all of the things that Wireshark thinks you should have a heads up about potential problems here. So in this case, the error is a leading CRLF previous message in the stream may have extra CRLF. I don't know what that acronym stands for. I didn't get to that point in the challenge. But this is a good way to get a really quick overview of a obvious problem. It won't solve everything for you. It's not AI. It doesn't learn. So it'll get you some low-hanging fruit, but you'll probably have to hunt in most PCAPs for what you're actually looking for. And the last thing I want to show you is you'll notice my time isn't working the same way as it was in the previous profile. And that's because under View, come back here, mouse. I'm sorry, under Edit. Yeah, Edit. I have the time reference set. So it's kind of useful to know from when you started the capture how much time has elapsed if you're looking at a 10,000 feet view of what's going on in the capture, but it's not going to be useful when you're picking apart this string of 5 packets. So what I've done instead is that was the wrong menu. Okay, I apologize, guys. I may have missed that one. The set or unset the time reference, by the way, if you just hit Control-T, that resets the count from the packet you're on. I was looking at the wrong thing. My time column right now, because this is a special column, is set up to show the time between say, packet, let me sort by the numbers here so that it, yep, between packet 597 and 598, there are 2.275 milliseconds. So if you see huge gaps between packets, it could be, again, an indicator of a problem. You wouldn't see that as intuitively, though, if it was just constantly incrementing up. And I think that's all I had in my notes to share with you. So does anybody have any questions? All right. If not, if you want to talk to me.
How accurate is Wireshark when it guesses the protocol that it's using?
Fairly accurate. One of the presentations I got to see at SharkFest talked about the development of the decoders down here. Now, if it's a common protocol like HTTP, I wouldn't doubt its ability to guess it. The only thing is you won't see hypertext transfer protocol on a packet until after the handshake has started. If I were trying to search for what I know to be TCP traffic, I would just, after I figured out what port they're using, if they're not using port 80 as the default, I would set my filter just to look for TCP destination port 80 up here, so, or source or destination if I want to see both directions, because that way I get the beginning and the end of the conversation in addition to the packets that contain HTTP data. Where you might run into trouble with Wireshark decoding protocols is if it's a fairly new, not understood, or off-the-wall protocol like we might have in our industrial control systems areas here at Consumers Energy. Sometimes those aren't documented very well, or people may have written them themselves. There are a few different frameworks you can use to write your own decoders, and you can choose to either release those to the public or keep them internal if it's proprietary information. But once you do that, you're kind of at the mercy of your coder. Do they fully understand what's going on in the packets? Most of them that Wireshark are released with, again, you won't see a problem with. It'll really be the customized ones if you're into doing that and developing for Wireshark, where you might run into an issue. Anyone else? Alrighty, thank you for putting up with me. If you have anything afterwards, just hit me up on the internet.
Alright, up next is phishing stories with Luke. Break it down. Well, not actually break anything, but...
Where's the fun of that?
No, I'm waiting for you.
What the hell, man?
Drop it now.
I don't have a joke prepared.
What?
That's why I...
Did you include one?
Yeah.
As long as it wasn't terrible.
You did.
In that case, I win.
I was just gonna go with the classic. Did you guys hear about the guy that got hit in the head with a can of pop? Good thing it was a soft drink.
I think we told them what it was.
We have. That's why it came to mind.
And then you viewers have gone yet?
Actually, they all left. Look at that.
You just blamed that on me.
Yeah. we got two streamers, two brave souls, braving the internet to watch with us. Is Luke demoing off the blue screen?
Well, my laptop, you know, it was nice to me and decided to run slowly while everyone's watching.
Or the streamers just see a black screen, but they hear voices in the darkness.
The internet's haunted.
Well, except for you, actually, they have the video stream of you up there.
Oh, okay.
You're their only hope.
Alright, yeah, so my presentation is Fish Stories. It's basically going to be a collection of actual phishing emails I've come across from various sources. All the user-related information or attacker information or third-party information, with a few small exceptions, is going to be blacked out for everyone involved's protection in the whole thing. But basically, it's going to be a series of starting from like the worst possible, crappiest attacks to some of the better ones that I've seen, and it's basically going to go through it just to, so as for a security defense point of view, to learn from them of this is the type of attacks that are out there, and then also I personally find some of them hilarious, so hopefully you get a laugh out of it. So this is the first one. Just a simple, email's been sent to you through our help desk. You have to agree to update your account, or otherwise it's going to be blocked. They didn't even bother to make like a good-looking link to click on. It's just this random assembly of garbage. And the email, the to and from were actually both incorrect in this example where I got it from. The to address is not the user who came across the email, and the from address was totally not even related to the organization they're at. Part of these are blanked out because both of those are actually real companies that were not at all affiliated with the company that got this email. So all in all, not their best effort, but I guess someone may have clicked on it. This is another one that's very similar. A lot of them follow the same pattern. It's another notification that they're doing some maintenance supposedly on the server. They're going to update the account. The one part about this one that I found funny is the exact wording at the bottom, as it says, to update your account, you already used the link below to update your account. Slightly repetitive, but I guess if that's the way you want to go. And then that was that's the actual link. Part of it got blanked out because I don't want anyone deciding they want to go find out what's there. This one also did step it up a notch. Right at the bottom, it had this nice little note saying that this is confidential, and if you're not supposed to get this, do not read it, delete it immediately. So they're trying, but it's not as good as it could have been. This is another one of the, again, following the same pattern. Your password's going to expire in 2 days. Unfortunately, I don't have where this link actually went because the person just sent me a screenshot. So all it says is click here, but I'm assuming it wasn't that stellar of a website underneath the link. Then you gotta update your username and password and then submit it, and that'll keep your password activated. One about this one that was kind of interesting is the from address. The last name is blanked out in part of the email address. That, again, this is not associated at all with the environment that this email came from. I looked them up. Both the person and the email address are real. They just don't actually go together. That is a real person, but they don't work for the company that the email came from, and it's a real company. So I'm not sure if they stole I don't think they actually stole someone's email account to send this, because the person didn't actually work there. So I don't know if they made up these names and it happened to be real people, or if they somehow combined the two from something. But it's kind of interesting. Here's another one. Again, you have to update your account. Click here to do so. And this link, if you hover over it and see what it actually is, help and help service has 2 H's in it, and then there's also another H at the end.
Just in case.
Yeah, lots, you know, because apparently H is the magic letter that makes everything okay, kind of like the evil bit. This one does not have all the third-party information removed because this is a very public attack. This is one of the emails that went out during the Google Mass Mailer Worm recently, and this one's further along because it was pretty good, and the attack vector was very sophisticated past this point, the way they did it. If you haven't looked into it, it's actually a pretty interesting attack. They were leveraging single sign-on to get access to your entire Gmail account. But if you look at the from address was also usually a person you actually knew. It was someone from your contacts who had already fallen for the attack, and it would then forward it to you. The thing that was weird is the way they did it, they carbon copied the victim's addresses into it, and the to address was the hhhh at mailinator.com. Again, H, I guess, is a magic letter. So that one was kind of interesting because if you really looked at the email, you would see it was coming from this random address. But this one was a lot more clever than the others, and a lot of people did fall for it. And the other thing about this one where I consider it not that great of an attack is, I mean, technically having access to someone's entire Gmail account, being able to pull like all their emails is a pretty good thing to get, but it seems to me that the attack was so sophisticated that they should have went for something a little bigger. But it's still kind of up there. This is one of the better ones I saw, although it's got some serious grammar mistakes in it. They found suspicious login attempt, which should be plural. And then someone from foreign IP address instead of foreign IP addresses. But the thing that I found this one very sophisticated was how much effort they went in to make it look like a legitimate email from Microsoft. There's a Microsoft logo in the corner. They put some actual IP addresses in there that are supposedly from Japan, Germany, and Russia. I never looked them up, so they might have been. There's a reference number in the account. They list a person who I looked up, and that person I think actually does work at Microsoft. So bravo to the attackers in this case, because that part was pretty good. Phone number and everything. Though the sending address from is Microsoft Team 1121, and I'll give you a hint, the blacked out part is not Microsoft.com. So it's not actually from Microsoft. So this one's a step up from a lot of the other ones, but if you really look at it, there's still some serious errors you can find. And this one was one of my favorites because it's exceptionally well done. It's supposedly from the United States Postal Service, but the sending address is actually from another company that delivers packages, but it's not the Postal Service, it's a private entity. The message is really well written, that a courier was not able to deliver a package on a certain date. No one was present to receive it. They made 3 attempts. So if you want to get the package, you have to go click on this link and check the invoice. And what was really, really good, I'll point it out a little bit later with, I've got some extra pointers to point out some stuff. Like, for example, the website, and I thought this was hilarious, the actual link is goingtrollin.com. Even though, so the link that's right there looks really, really good. When you hover over it, there's the red flag. And then the user's name was in first initial, last name format, and that was actually the user who received the email. Their name was in the link. So that part was really, really well done. That, the user who got this email, their name was actually listed in the email. So whoever did that one was actually pretty good at it. The only red flag in here really that when you look at it is the mismatched email addresses and then the goandtrolling.com. And this, I especially wanted to make sure this one got in the presentation because I laughed out loud when I saw that the first time. I think that's all of them I have. The takeaways here, like what was the point? First off, from a security perspective, you can get some good statistics from this. The methods of attack, are they trying to get you to download an attachment? Is it a link leading somewhere? Is it more scam based where they're trying to get you to contact like a fake call center? Is it a download? What are they trying to do? Who are the targets? Who's getting the emails? Are they specifically targeting you? Does it have, for example, your name somewhere in the email? Or is it one of those blanket ones that goes to hundreds of people? And then the success rate, because if a lot of the time, like these ones were usually sent to me from someone else who recognized it as a phishing email. So in that case, you can look at it and go, okay, this person was able to look at this and realize that's not actually a correct email and they caught it. Or if you get a hold of it because an alert got triggered on your network because malware got downloaded, then you know they fell for it. So you can look at it and go, okay, why did they fall for this? What do we have to show them? You can also review and update like a red flag list. You know, what types of things you still, is there bad grammar in the email, which a lot of those had. Is it a bad looking link? Is it what email addresses are coming from? And that way you can become better prepared to educate your users on what to look for, what types of stuff are coming in, and then also update your defenses, maybe intrusion detection systems or email scanning. And hopefully this presentation was also kind of funny because I found a lot of the emails kind of hilarious. When I got them sent to me, there were a couple I actually laughed out loud, which is kind of awkward at work, but whatever. And then the final thing, for any hackers watching who are going to be sending phishing emails, be careful what you fish for. So also, if we have extra time, I was just wondering, does anybody have any good phishing email stories, something that was really funny, or perhaps a really good crafted email you've seen? If you have any.
Well, there was one the other day that I had gotten that had a reply email address at gmail.com. Literally, I took the email address and flagged their account. I'm sure Google pulled it down within hours of me reporting it.
Also, I can't imagine necessarily why you'd have a question, but if anybody does have any questions about anything. No? All right, that's all I got.
Sweet. And our next presentation, Brute Force 101 by James Sinclair. Please enter the stage right.
Somebody else can set up Wi-Fi access. Can you do that for the demo?
You're
Or is it too late for that?
just
Yep,
now.
just as we're presenting.
Just right now.
Because I didn't want to have to interrupt the other
Did anyone
presentation.
sacrifice for the demo yesterday?
I mean,
Anyone at all?
I got to Jackson early, so that counts.
All the extra time to get it set up and just sat over here.
Yeah.
Could have sent me a message. Could have said hi.
You know, I sent a message about the adapter, so I got one thing there. Okay, another thing. We have HDMI for the recording, but we need VGA for the adapter that Ben got me. So is that possible or no? Yeah.
You guys are killing me here.
Yeah, I know. Special case, I'm saying.
I might.
Is there anything like in here to like at least connect to the projector?
Mine has HDMI on it,
Can
so.
we use this? I don't know what that connects
Oh,
to.
you have the mini adapter.
Yeah.
So if we just have a mini to HDMI.
Yeah.
Does anyone have a mini to HDMI? Asking the crowd. Polling question.
I don't
Anybody?
think so. Came so prepared. Sorry. I didn't think of this, yeah. And it's being recorded, so.
Tonight's meeting.
Yep.
I love my
When
computer.
preparing for presentations.
Yeah. I mean, I have one. I just.
Whoa.
not
Yeah, sure.
place that
Actually,
it came
I
from.
also have an HDMI.
I love the key takeaway that just put that
Yeah.
file and you get it.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's also true.
Remember when they did that at DEF CON last year?
I'll just ask the guy.
That guy that didn't have his adapter for 20 minutes of the talk.
I did not see that one.
Wasn't there a guy trying to run like a PowerPoint presentation off of Cali? Like he took someone's computer? And
Yeah, that's what it came down to.
Yeah, jeez. Okay.
Alright, well, I don't
Alright.
have an adapter for that.
We can.
Just,
We can put it on the screen and I can turn the camera
Yeah.
things there.
that'll work. But
The internet will not be able to see your faces, so I'm sorry.
okay,
That's fine.
that's fine. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So we're just unplugging this one from here if we're using the screen, or what?
Yeah. Yeah, don't worry about anything.
Wait, what do you mean you don't have to worry about anything? How are we connecting to this screen?
Oh, sorry.
This one, I got this. We have to plug it.
Yeah, they're asking all these difficult questions. Like, oh no, yeah, just click the thing. You're fine.
It's 3 questions.
Plug it with that.
Okay.
And then we do some fancy magic over here by clicking buttons.
And hopefully things work.
Why does that say HTML?
Because that's HTML.
It says lectern VGA.
I'm gonna go make a second.
Okay.
James is usually such a good presenter.
Yeah, I know.
Shame about what happened to that kid.
Follows the wagon.
Are you presenting?
No, it's just duplicate.
You try and expand. I mean, does your computer see it? Oh, it's an apple. That's
Yeah,
why.
it's an
You
Mac,
gotta. You try clicking the thing. It's like 1 mouse click. That's
One
like
mouse
more than one.
I don't know what you're talking about. Just click all the things.
Do you know, mirror? Do you know how to use that thing?
No. I don't use it.
Sometimes when I plug mine in and use the VGA, I have to restart so it actually sees it.
I don't want to restart it, so all my
Yeah,
stuff
I know.
get to go for the presentation. What does this do? Does it do anything? Maybe?
And those gods are no joke.
Yeah. Wait.
Hey!
Hey, there we go.
There it is. I think someone just ran out to get an adapter. Probably. That's gonna be hilarious. All right. Well, let me.
But it's not showing.
Did you?
No, it's still showing my screen, but it's not showing up on the projector. And everyone crowd around the little computer.
Hey!
There we go.
Hey!
Okay. Cool. So you see a background. Yay.
This is like a record night here.
Yeah. Okay. All the fun.
For
So
once, I had like 15 minutes ahead of time. I had all the streaming stuff, everything ready to go. I was like, this is gonna be a great night.
Well, that's what jinxed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's I got to screw up on the streams.
but the more we screw up now, the better we'll be in the future. I hope.
I got to bust a little break out.
Okay, so I guess to start this off, since we don't have slides or anything like that, because it's mostly demo, has anyone brute forced stuff before? Okay, Sam, Ben, yeah, okay. I guess to give a quick overview, I'll go through the page that I made. Hilary will go through how to find a word list, how to generate something so you have material to use while you're brute forcing. And then, I'm not sure if we'll actually be able to get the page to open or not without internet, but I'll show you what we're going to do with that word list.
Oh, we could dock it to my phone if you want.
Yeah,
It won't take too long.
that'll work. So we can set that up as I'm talking to you guys about it. But I guess to go over what the page looks like, this is the code behind it. Giant mess of stuff. It's basically the password's hashed, so if anyone sees the source code, you don't know what the password is automatically. If it's a post request, check what the username and password is. If it's the right thing, it'll show a success page. If it's the wrong thing, it'll print out an error message. Really simple, straightforward, so if people try this on their own free time, it doesn't break my website or anything like that, it just is this one page. Yeah, so to show you what that looks like normally. Default passwords. That's what the page looks like. It's just a simple styling that I took from a blog that was like, hey, here's how to copy Google's layout, so it looks professional. If you want to use this, all you have to do is guess what the passwords are and try to type them in. Hope for the best. So I give you the test. I don't know if it's, yeah, it's going to error because no internet yet.
Put WP/ in front of that and force it.
No. Do you hear me crap? Do you have your?
I do. Try not to. That should be on. Original hotspot. Try not to laugh too hard if it shows up, because I had the last time I configured this thing, it was to join other network if it's not showing up.
What's it called?
I'm gonna just go ahead and let you read it.
Oh.
I turned it on at Circle City.
Okay. God, so glad this is
didn't have to be secretive about that.
yeah.
This is so good.
We're just
It
gonna
just
change
exposed
this.
my yeah. It's fine. It's all good.
Lucky for you, this thing is not autofocusing all that great, so it's very blurry.
Perfect.
Yeah.
See if this works. No, that works fine.
Oh.
So yeah.
Oh, it says
I guess
it's
that's a good
ready.
thing.
Yeah, I guess. Right.
Crap.
Let's see if
Well,
it'll find it.
okay. Well, I guess we can't do a live demo,
Why is
but
everything so hard?
guess we came 5 minutes before we started. I don't know.
We did. We actually went through every single step of this, and he's been practicing for a while. And
Yeah.
I refined my John.
Anyway, so we can go through the steps of this, I guess. Yeah. Well, I guess that's the page. Do you want to go through the wordless stuff now?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll let you have fun with whatever.
Okay. So we were talking about a couple of different. Is it the same command to get a new terminal? Control Shift.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we were talking about a couple of different ways to create or mangle word lists. Does anyone use John the Ripper
Oh, every day.
every day?
Wake up and just turn.
Yeah, just straight to John.
You don't.
All right. So, John has everyone heard of John the Ripper? Yeah. Okay. So then you know, there's word list file. I'm trying to. There we go. And then this will. What is the caret on Apple? Is it just the same, like Shift,
Shift 6.
or to use these guys?
Oh, that's Control. So yeah, same.
Control W. Okay. So it's like the master file that has all of the syntax specific stuff and allows you to mangle your word list. If you were already to have a list of words and you wanted to go through kind of common ways that people spell it, so you add numbers or letters to the front or the back, add special characters, things like that. So we kind of have the, we know what the password is, right? But just as an example, let's say you think that your target uses LeetSpeak on their networks, so we could write a code that would change, switch all O's to zeros. The syntax for this is online. They have a listserv that's pretty active that you can sign up for online, that I signed up for a few days ago, and I've already been picking up some different habits, which is really cool. S is for switch. O is the character you want to switch. 0 is going to be the character that you want it to be. And Q, I don't know why. I just assumed it was the end of the word, and I Googled, but came up short. So I learned 2/3 of this. When you're done, yes, we'll do, just to kind of show an example, I have to delete some of this stuff after. Let's use our sample password that we would have no idea what it would be. Control X, yes. And the syntax, I have to take a peek. I cannot. Every time I use this, I make myself write it down, and so far I still have not memorized it. All right, so John, this summons John. My word list. Use the standard rules. Oops, I just do that. Run the command. And can show you just the different mangling that it does. So all of these just kind of come standard out of the box. It'll throw different capitalizations, switch the word around to reverse it, throw numbers in the beginning and the end. This second one right here is our attempt at LeetSpeak. So that's one of the examples. The second one is crunch, and that would be like if you have an idea, maybe you know part of the word that you're pretty sure the password would be, but you need some help configuring it. Crunch is another way to make word lists. And this one I think I wrote down in here too. The syntax is super easy. You type crunch to summon it, and then your next two numbers are going to be the minimum and the maximum amount of characters that you would like to have for your password. Since we have no idea what our password is, we're going to do 5 and 5. And -T is going to be pattern, right? We were looking at that. So we're going to tell it that we're pretty sure the last 4 letters of this password are root, and we're pretty sure the first one is a capital letter. So use comma as the, it just tells it to cycle A through Z uppercase. The at was lowercase.
Yep.
And this is also super, I mean, if you just type in crunch online, crunch Cali, it should be able to pull it up pretty easily. So that's it, right?
That's it.
Cat into, I have so many different examples in here. All right, so it's going to run that. And if we were to take a look at it, oops. Now it has all of the possibilities based on what we were looking for. So there's just a couple of cool, easy, relatively easy ways to kind of get yourself familiarized with manipulating letters and words. I really wish I had changed my wireless name. It was one, you know, we was at a conference, and so I thought it was funny to show up every once in a while. You can't see me, but I'm embarrassed slightly. Let me see if I can get it to work so that you can get your thing to work. Can you just go through the burp?
Yeah,
Where
I can
you
go through
find
the
it?
burp stuff. Yeah.
See if it-
So once you have a word list generated, right, you actually want to try attempting these. For a simple login like ours, you can just brute force the login live and see which passwords work. So my part of the demo was going to be using Burp Suite Intruder to do that. So when we tried it, we saw that there was this login page. You try it once, get a fake password, and then once you see that request, you can right-click on it and send to Intruder, right? Which is just a different part of Burp Suite, and then from here you can configure all of the settings that you want to change. So like for positions, this is going to be fun. So if we do it live, we could say that, like we just grabbed the post request, we wouldn't have to modify any of this. But we'd say like user, we'll just keep IM, and password, is password. You highlight the part of the request that you want to change, click add, and then this will take everything from your payload and put it into the request for you. So basically, like we go here, we take whatever word list that we copied, and paste it into Burp Suite. From here, you just have to run it, and then it will show you an output.
I think you can try to connect to it now.
Try to connect it.
Yeah, look for a wireless network called Good Name. No?
Let me try to turn this off.
What was it again? Good name?
Good Name. Do you see Good Name Broadcasting?
I do.
You do? Okay.
You got a what? Oh, yes. Yes. I steal all my wallpapers. Yeah.
Digital blasters.
They're still
Hmm.
alive.
Yeah, I know. Didn't think they were.
Let's just try this. So good name.
G-O,
Years
yeah,
ago.
no space.
Oh.
Capital N. Sorry, I made that more complicated than it
No,
needed to
you're
be.
And then
They were still going like
Web 2.
2011.
Web 2.
Oh, I don't think it's web. I guess it was WPA.
We've had some numbers there.
Yeah, yeah.
They're used or they're not used.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, maybe.
Heyo. Looks like you're connected. I'm just waiting for like 4 more connections to show up.
Yeah, sure, that'll work.
Sweet.
Okay, so let's see if we can actually load the page now. Maybe? Okay, so yeah, the username is IM. We don't have to change that for this demo. When you do a bad password, it reloads that same page, which shows that error message I talked about earlier. So we're trying to do that in BERT. If you go to target, you'll see this post request. Right click that, send to intruder. It's basically what I just walked through. And then you see this is the request that we tried through the first time. We want to clear everything that Burp Suite assumes we want to change, and we're only going to change password. So add that as a variable, and it highlights it, so it's pretty obvious. For the payload, we'll just paste in all of the letter roots, and then start the attack. Yeah, it'll warn you that it's going to take longer because this is the free version, but it's not a big deal. We have a small word list for a reason. So as it goes through these, you notice that every status is 200 because we're not returning an error code with the response. It's just successfully loading the web page with the error message. So the only way that you can really tell that this is working or not is based on the length of the response. Obviously all the error messages are the same size, so anything that's 1287 is an error message. Something different than that, which is root here, is larger, so that's showing a success page. You can get a preview of that by going down through here, and it says success. Right. So once you find that, you can just go back yourself and type in root for the password and see if this works. Yeah, so it's a success page. So yeah, that's fun. And that's basically how you do a brute force attack. You find a list of options, try all of them until one works, and then success. So any questions? Yeah.
With when you pasted the stuff into Burp Suite, is there an option to like attach a word list, or do you actually have to copy and paste the?
Yeah, you can do a word list. That works as well.
Okay. So I was just thinking if you had one with like a couple thousand lines in it, you wouldn't want to copy and paste the whole thing.
Yep, you can change the type of payloads even, and I think you can add, and it just adds a file.
Okay.
So yeah, you don't have to copy and paste, but for this it's faster.
Right.
So.
I'm going to say James had made this because of a challenge that we were doing in a CTF that we didn't break in enough time. So it's live if you guys want to practice what you learned.
Yeah, so if you guys want, anyone can go to greengem94.me/login.php and try this out for yourself. So, cool. And don't worry about crashing the website. It's just a little thing that I have, so it's not like going to cripple my company or anything. So, you're good. Yeah.
So if we wanted to try to brute force the login to your actual website, but we don't know your username. So would we use what strategy would you use to guess a username and a password simultaneously? Figuring out a password solve problems for us, right? We use a word list, whatever. What strategy would you use for the username? Would you just use the same sort of strategy you do for the passwords?
Yep, you can either, so if you're just doing brute forcing, you could try everything. That's going to take a lot longer though, because you're not only guessing one field, you're guessing multiple. Other options you can try are like phishing. So what Luke showed, if you can like say, hey, what's your username? I need to recreate your account, or something like, what's your preferred name? You could try that. Another thing is just like if it's a WordPress site, a lot of times the username is displayed. So it's kind of just through your reconnaissance, you can see like what the usernames are supposed to be. Or in my case, my username is the URL. So
thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Perfect.
Probably a good thing to mention at the same time. Ways to prevent brute forcing, right, is just limiting the number of requests that can go through. So for this one, you can request it 1 million times. My website won't care. If you go to my blog and try to log in, I'm using a WordPress plugin that limits it to 3 tries. So you basically get 3 times to try 1 million combinations.
What's your blog?
blog.greengem94.me. Yeah.
WP dash in front of login.
Yeah. I mean, I'll show it on here if you guys want. So, there. Use that URL if you want to try something more advanced. I have protections in place so you can't log into that one.
The
internet can't see it.
Do you ever see a lot of those? Because I manage a few WordPress blogs, and from time to time, I actually get a lot of tries.
I don't think I've seen any hits on my personal blog, but I have seen it happen before on WordPress blogs. So, yeah, we'll see what happens, I guess. I'm calling people out to try it, so hopefully something shows up for me. Make sure those controls actually work. But, yeah. Cool. Thanks, guys. trying to plug things back.
Unless anyone has a rant they would like to do right now. That's all the talks we have for tonight. If you want to talk to some of the speakers, or if you just want to hang out, we'll probably head over to Nightlight to get some dinner. So everybody's welcome to it. Otherwise, that's all we got for us.